Hi everyone, I'm Shereif Fattouh, producer at Visceral Games, working on Dead Space 3. So as you guys might have seen, we just played through the Dead Space 3 demo. And for Dead Space 3, one of the big things that we're introducing is our campaign co-op. That's one of our main features. And in Dead Space 3, you'll actually be able to take on the terror together with a friend. You'll be playing as John Carver, an ex-military patriot who is going to find himself joining Isaac through his mission to take down the terror and finally discover the root of the Necromorph invasion. So one of the new things that we're doing for Dead Space 3 is creating an all-new kind of epic environments that are brand new to the franchise. Isaac and Carver will be taking place, most of the battle will be taking place on the ice planet Tau Valentis. And it's a very dangerous, icy world where they'll actually learn the root of the marker lore. Something brand new to the Dead Space franchise as well is going to be the introduction of new humanoid enemies. So unitologists, in addition to all of the crazy necromorphs that you know to come and love, will also be hunting down Isaac and Carver, and it will introduce a whole new brand of combat where we'll actually have ranged enemies and you'll be able to take cover and have military-type weapons that you'll use to fight them off. But again, it's still the Dead Space you know and love, and Isaac and Carver will be using a lot of the tools and weapons from the earlier games and brand new ones to fight the necromorphs and finally save mankind.
All right, Federico here from Capture Computers. We're going to be asking you a few questions here. Now, if we can maybe go through, explain a little bit more about multiplayer, because from what we've seen and everything, is when you play single player, it's a single player experience. Now, the co-op experience is with a friend, and he can jump in anytime. You can send him a friend's request, and he jumps in, right? When he does jump in, the game changes a little bit, doesn't it? Like something you see cutscenes or something that you don't normally would see. So give us a good rundown of how it actually affects. Because I think, to tell you the truth, from what I've personally seen in multiplayer games, if you're playing single player and then co-op comes in, nothing changes. But it seems like stuff does change and cutscenes, newer cutscenes actually appear. Is that true?
Yes. So one of the big things that we're doing is a very unique kind of drop-in, drop-out co-op system. We really wanted to preserve the integrity of our single-player experience, and we've done that by, if you don't want to play with a friend, you can completely play the Dead Space, same style that you did with Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2. But with this introduction of campaign co-op, if you choose to invite a friend or somebody invites you and you to join their game, you actually pop into the game, and the cutscenes will change slightly with the presence of Carver now being in the sequence. Because we don't have a buddy follower system, we didn't feel like that was something that was true to our franchise, where if you're playing in single player, you always have your buddy kind of tagging along, whether it's AI or if it's a friend. We wanted it just to be, if you're playing single player and you're on your own. And if not, then when you play co-op, your buddy comes on and you play like that. And so we've altered some key scenes that kind of, it doesn't change the overall story arc, but what it does is kind of provide a little bit more interaction between Carver and Isaac, and you get some more of the character in a dialogue with those, and you get to learn a little bit more about Carver and his role in the Dead Space universe. And so it's very seamless, and we're very happy with the way that it's turned out. So as an example, when you're playing in single player, you can see a cutscene where Carver will be up top on a catwalk telling you, hey, I'm going to go check this out, I'm getting chased down by necromorphs, and he'll take off, and you'll be on your own. Now, if you replay that same scene in co-op, he's actually not on the catwalk above you, he's standing next to you, and you'll have a cutscene that plays where there'll be some interaction between he and you talking about, why are we here, make sure that you understand, you better know what your mission is for, and, get your head straight and all that kind of stuff. So it's a unique way that we're tackling this idea of, okay, how does the story evolve, and how do we maintain the integrity of the gameplay for both single player and co-op, and we think it turned out pretty well.
All right, so apart from that, now weapons, and that's, Isaac is using, of course, the cutters and all that sort of stuff for the mining. So now that he's on this island, on this planet, is there a need for that? Like, does he need those sort of weapons anymore? Because, looking at it, it looked like, does he need that now? Like he's on a planet now, it's like different. Of course, he's still got them because you want to stay true to the game. But could you, if you can, explain or go through in maybe more detail on new weapons and why you might keep these old ones for any particular reason? Because I know the necromorphs are pretty much, you got to chop down their their body limbs, which I think is that, if you can explain as well, if that's going to stay true. So yeah, give us a rundown of the weapons and all that sort of stuff, and the new ones, and why you guys are keeping the old ones and so forth.
So the weapons have always been a big part of the Dead Space franchise, and we're continuing that with Dead Space 3. So as you mentioned, Isaac is going to have a lot of the tools as weapons that he had in the past. Now, even though he's on this planet, Tau Volantis, it's not really a modern metropolis, so to speak. It's a very isolated, frozen planet. A lot of the rooms and the kind of artifacts that have been there are thousands of years old. So he's still going to have to kind of make do with what he can find. So that's kind of still true to the franchise. But we do have we're introducing a lot of new weapons for Dead Space 3, and some of the ones that you've seen were of a little bit more of a military nature. Now, as I mentioned, the unitologists have also been on the planet, and you'll be able to actually, the fact that there's other kind of humans there kind of lends itself to seeing a little bit more weapon variety. So I can't get too detailed into what's going to happen there, but we have some big announcements coming up about the weapons that I think a lot of the fans are going to be excited about. There's a very deep system involved, and it's going to be very true to Dead Space and pretty kick-ass.
Alrighty, so that's fine. Now the question I was going to say is, we've got human characters now that you're fighting against, and what I've noticed and what we've seen is that you don't really have a cover system, but Isaac can now roll, and now he can crouch, which is kind of newish. And what we've also seen is that he goes into cover. Now, one thing is, I believe it's not sticky cover. All right, so when it's not sticky cover, when he does crouch, is there a possibility to actually still get headshotted? Because looking at it, because I know everybody hasn't seen it yet, but I've seen it, and you can explain it further. When he does go into the crouch mode and goes behind the sticky cover, or goes behind the cover, is there a possibility of still getting hammered or getting nailed? And also give us a rundown of how and why you guys did that with roles and so forth.
So what we wanted to do, again, when we had the idea of introducing humanoid enemies, and really ties into the story of the markers and all that, where they have the unitologist cult and they have their forces coming out. So we really thought it would be a cool way to kind of spice up the gameplay a little bit for Dead Space 3. Now, as you mentioned, we do have a unique cover system, but it is very specific to Dead Space. It's not a sticky cover system. It's more of a lean-in type of cover. So we've introduced new player mechanics like roll and crouch, but it's really, when you get into a cover system, when there's some cover objects nearby in some of these fights, what you'll be able to do is just, if you happen to be crouched down or you happen to be up against the cover, if you just simply aim and using your normal aiming mechanism, not any kind of button press or anything, you'll just kind of lean in and out of the cover. So it gives you a little bit of a slimmer profile. It kind of helps you aim a little bit more and makes you a smaller target. But as you mentioned, it's not like you're completely invulnerable, and it's not like a hard, sticky system where you're going to be sucked into the wall and your back is to it and your back is to the enemies. It's not like that. It's going to be basically just leaning and kind of taking advantage of the natural environment that's around there. And so it just helps you get a little bit more of an edge in combat. But again, it really doesn't change the way that the Dead Space combat really works. It's very useful for enemies like the humans that are kind of long range. But when it comes to like the Necromorphs and fighting those guys, hiding behind a rock isn't really going to help you a whole lot when they start coming at you. So it's really still the same Dead Space, and it's all about the strategic dismemberment.
All right, that was perfect. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you is that the enemies. All right, you got some new ones, which are the humans and stuff like that, the Necromorphs. Now, we saw one, which I'm not sure we're allowed to say, is something that's got a head and some tentacles. Now, are you allowed to talk about that? All right. Okay. So basically, it's a head with tentacles, and I'll let you run through it, and maybe if you can share it with us, anything special that you can. And for the Dead Space fans out there, with enemies and Necromorphs and stuff like that, because humans are humans and they're going to shoot with your guns, so that's not exciting. So people might want to see, what's new and what this thing can do, because what I saw, it was freaky. So yeah, give us a rundown of that, and yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of our new Necromorphs called the Infestor. So it's this skeletal head with these tentacles that come out, and if he sees a corpse, and there's going to be a lot of these unitologist corpses lying around that actually have weapons on them, and if he sees one of those, he'll jump into their skulls, rip their skulls off, impregnate his head into them, and then he'll get up, and you kind of have this shambling corpse that can actually shoot at you. Now, it's a little different than a real military soldier, because it is a necromorph, so he's just going to be kind of spraying the bullets around. And he's pretty nasty though, because even if you take down that corpse, he can jump to another one, and he can actually jump on you and try to infect you as well. So then you'll have to kind of fight him off. But he's a real nasty fellow to deal with, and you really got to take the big secret is kill the head, and the rest of the body will die.
All right, that was a good one. I had to throw that one in. Okay, one of the last questions I was going to ask you as well was enemies. They're huge. Some of them are huge. Now, run us through, for example, what was the inspiration of why you wanted to choose big enemies? Because I'm not going to compare. I want to compare it, but I don't want to like say comparing it with other titles. There are other titles out there that got enemies and huge enemies like that too. So what made you guys want to bring out huge enemies into the game and you know, basically the same sort of style of taking them down, which I've noticed. You can explain it. So what was the, you know, why did you guys want to do it, and what was the, you know, story behind bringing out these huge enemies?
So, you know, with Dead Space, we've always had a soft spot in our hearts for big, epic bosses. So we've had that throughout the franchise, and what we really wanted to do was take it up to the next level. And size and scale, you know, people just like killing big, huge enemies, you know, so it's just something that, you know, gamers like to do, we as developers love to make. It's challenging, but we really wanted to kind of stress the scale in this game. I think that's important for us. All of our environments are bigger, larger. We have more, you know, kind of badass weapons, and everything is just getting up in the intensity. So we felt with the bosses, why not step it up a notch and really get with these epic, huge boss battles that, you know, fans have come to love, and we really wanted to deliver. So right now, that's where we're headed for, and we've got a bunch of them, and they're looking pretty awesome.
All right, there's no spoilers. You can't give us any, which is fair enough. Okay, one thing I was going to ask, last thing. Now I know people love playing online, and as you said, you've got multiplayer co-op. Now, will there be multiplayer in general, playing online, you know, as you would, you know, with multiplayer games? Now, if there isn't, that's fine. If there is, just give us a quick rundown of that, and that'll probably be it.
Yeah, so we're actually not going to have any kind of competitive multiplayer this time around. It's going to be the single-player campaign and co-op. Co-op is our version of multiplayer, and basically we just really wanted to. It's not an easy task to challenge, so it's a big task to undertake to kind of make the game that we want to make, and really have all of these separate cutscenes and have a unique story that follows along, whether you're playing in single player and co-op. So we really just doubled down on that and wanted to focus on making as kick-ass an experience as possible for single player and co-op. So we had a lot of fun with making the competitive multiplayer last year, but this time around we're really focused on the single player and the co-op campaign. February 2013 on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. That's it. Take care. Bye, guys.